Hi, I'm Amy Kaufman with the Los Angeles Times, and we are here today with Saoirse Ronan to talk about her role in the film Brooklyn. Thanks for being here, Saoirse.
Thanks for having me.
Or should I say Shisha?
Or Saoirse.
Yeah, anything
Or
at this
Shisha.
point. Okay, were you watching when Dennis Quaid did the flub of your announcement of your name on Golden Globe announcements?
No, because I didn't know that the nominations were coming out that day. So I, hello. How's it going? I didn't want to know any of the dates for any announcements at all. And I was in Dublin city centre with my mate's little girl who had just turned 8. And we took her to get her nails done in this nail salon that we go to in town. So we're getting our nails done and my phone keeps ringing and I'm like, well, who's ringing me now? You know, because it was non-stop, as we were saying before we came on, before Christmas, there was a lot of, you know, press to do and I kind of needed to just get rid of all technology, you know. And so my phone kept calling and calling and eventually I answered it and it was my publicist. I was like, you know, I'm trying to get my nails done here. I'm trying to do something normal for a second.
Yeah.
She was like, well, you've just been nominated for a Globe, so you have to talk to us. And I spent the next 2 hours doing, you know, the reaction phoners that you do in the corner of
The
a
nail
nail
salon.
salon. And everyone's getting their nails done around me and they got champagne in and
Oh, so they knew
you
what
know,
was happening.
Well, we knew then, yeah. I kind of shrieked when she said it to me on the phone because I had no idea. I thought they were coming out in, you know, the end of January or
They really,
February.
like, a lot of actors say that, so you really had, like, no clue.
No, I really didn't. I didn't know. I completely forgot about it. I didn't know what date they were coming out or anything. And really, I wasn't expecting, you know, a nomination. So I was delighted, you know, and everyone, of course, wanted to know what was going on because I looked to my mum who was with me and told her and all the girls celebrated with us. But everyone kept saying to me, you know, what about Dennis Quaid? What was that all about? And I hadn't seen the video. So I'm kind of thinking like they're just randomly asking me what I think of Dennis Quaid.
Like,
I was like, yeah, he's great. He's a great guy.
Parent
Love
Trap,
Parent
yes.
Trap. Brilliant. He knows a lot about wine, you know. And then I saw the video that night and just thought it was the funniest thing.
was that like one of the bigger flubs you've had? Or because I'm assuming your name has been messed up by a lot of people in your life.
Loads. Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. It's my life.
Had you heard Shisha before? That was a new
Well,
one.
he said shisha. I've never heard shisha. That was a new one, I have to say.
I hope you guys run into each other this weekend so you can.
So do I.
Yes.
Need to have a good old talk. No, listen. I know it's a tricky name. It doesn't really make a lot of sense when you look at all those letters thrown together. I have like 4 of the 5 vowels in my first name alone. So
Is it a popular name in Ireland?
it is more now. I think maybe because it's just been in newspapers a bit more over the last, you know, few years. People have
You're creating
seen
a
it as
cool
a name.
name.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of political slogan at home, and it means freedom. You know, it's Irish for freedom and liberty. So that's obviously something that is always kind of in our psyche at home in Ireland, and I think it was only really since the 60s it's been used as an actual name. It's a unisex name. So if anyone wants to call their boy Saoirse, they can.
Ooh. I just
saying.
learned so much about your name, much more than I know the
Facts
history
of the day.
There you go.
Saoirse facts of the day.
Wait, so you're 21 now?
Yeah.
And the first time you were nominated for an Oscar, you were 12.
Yeah.
12.
Well, 13 by the time they came out, but I was 12 when I did the film.
So, so I read that you weren't even. Did you go to the Oscars, or were you filming a movie? So you just kind of missed the press part of it.
It's gas because it was the only award show I had been to. So the very first award show I ever went to was the Oscars.
That's crazy. This was for Atonement,
which is
by the way.
mental. Yeah, it was for Atonement, and I was doing a film in New Zealand at the time, so it was the only thing that I went to. But you know, I didn't really do any press for Atonement. I went to our Venice Film Festival premiere, and we had a London Royal Gala, and that was about it. You know, so I had no idea until we did all of our Brooklyn press what went into this aspect of it, you know. I had no idea. But it was great. It's the only award show I went to. The Globes were cancelled that year, just our luck, because the writers went on strike.
Gosh.
So we all watched it in the chateau and, you know, had
The
popcorn.
chateau, hey.
As you do.
So do you have strong memories of being at the show, or is it sort of you were young and so excited?
Yeah, I remember a lot of things from when I was young, I have to say. Like, I have very, very vivid memories of my time in New York. And I was only there till I was 3. But yeah, I remember being starving at the Oscars because you don't get fed,
Right.
you know, for like 4 hours. So because of course it was the first thing I had been to, I know now you eat before you go to these things.
Unless it's Ellen's year where she brought the pizza out.
Yeah, unless it's Ellen knows how to do it. But it wasn't Ellen's year. Jon Stewart was hosting that year though, and he did bring around like a big bucket of licorice in the commercial break, which was lovely. But only like the first 3 rows got the licorice, and everyone else had to starve. So.
One piece ration
a
per
half
actress.
a piece. You get 1 bite and that's it. But yeah, I just remember us being starving, and we were knackered. You know, we were on New Zealand time, and the next day I went back to New Zealand and I was shooting the murder scene in The Lovely Bones with Stanley Tucci. So I was like back down into a hole. After being at the Oscars, I went like into a hole in New Zealand with Stanley and was murdered the next day. So
Lovely.
yeah, a real kind of juxtaposition there.
So you said you were born in New York and you lived there till you were 3, and then you moved to where in Ireland?
My mum and dad are from Dublin, so we moved back there for a few months, and we lived with my granddad in Cabra, which is in North Dublin. And then it was during the Celtic Tiger, which was a real boom after the recession in the 80s and kind of early 90s. And it was just too expensive to live in Dublin. So we went back, we went to the countryside. We went to a place called Carlow. And that's where I grew up. Yeah, it was lovely. It was the best place to grow up, you know. We had a big garden. I had my dog, Sassy, and I had fields all around me and horses and cows and the river. I learned to swim in the River Slaney, which was right by my house.
This sounds like a weird novel.
Yeah, like, I know.
I learned to swim in the River Slaney.
Times. The Slaney sagas. But yeah, so I really did have a great childhood, and I think, you know, I really do feel like it was having that sort of contrast between all of this, even though I didn't do as much, obviously, when I was younger, when it came to press. Still, when you're in this world at all, it's surreal, you know, and it's not reality, and it's wonderful, but it's very important, obviously, especially when you're growing up, to be in touch with real life and, you know, normal people and horses and cows and mud and things like that.
Totally.
And the River Slaney. So to go back then, you know, back to the countryside and just be away from that in every single way, in such a kind of dramatic way, was brilliant.
So when you were very young when you started acting, but did you aspire to be an actress in Ireland, or did you have a sense of Hollywood and what it was like here?
No, I mean, my dad was kind of discovered in a bar, basically, in New York. So he, you know, left school when he was 16, had never been to the theatre, had never been to see a play or anything. And all of these actors from the Irish Rep and the Irish Arts Centre in New York would go into his pub that he worked in after a performance, and he was asked by one of the actors, Chris O'Neill, to audition for a play, and after quite a bit of persuasion, he did it, and that was how he started. And so I had been on sets with him, you know, when I was younger, and he, like every parent, would record me on the camcorder, and I did the school plays and things like that, but I seemed to really be drawn to it, and it was something that I felt very, very comfortable with the camera, and I naturally kind of seemed to have a real connection to that sort of world, and so he mentioned it to his Irish agent, and she put me up for a job, and yeah, one thing just kind of went from one thing to another. Like the casting agents on the second TV show that I had done, where I only had a little part, saw me for the first film that I got, and then the dialect coach from that film mentioned me to Joe Wright for Atonement. So I was very lucky that I had a lot of people who kind of, you know, believed in me, I guess, you know. But it was never, like when I was a kid, I wanted to be either a waitress or a hairdresser or a writer.
Why a waitress? Did you like your wait?
Because you know, when you're a kid and you have the plastic food. Did you have the plastic food when you were a kid?
To play with in your house. Yeah.
And it's the best. So I had plastic food when I was younger, and I'd take everyone's order in the house, and I'd go back to the kitchen, and I'd get them their burger or their chips or sandwich or whatever.
Do you like hosting parties now? Like, are you a big like
yeah,
server?
I want to be a hostess, really. That's the dream. But no, I was a baby, you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about that. And I always find it amazing, really, when you hear about, even I remember hearing Shia LaBeouf's story where he like called up a manager and,
oh really?
you know, apparently, yeah, I think so. I think it was him, and asked to get a job or asked for him to represent him. But I wasn't aware of that world at all, you know, and I think it was good because I went into it with quite an authentic kind of perspective on the whole thing. It was just, to me, it was just seen as work from the get-go, you know.
Right. Let's talk about Brooklyn a little bit. For people who haven't seen it, which is, they should have by this point been out for.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about what it's about?
Yeah. Brooklyn is based on a Colm Tóibín novel by the same name. It's set in the 50s, in the early 50s. And it's about this girl who moves over from Ireland, a small little town called Enniscorthy in County Wexford, to Brooklyn, New York. And essentially the film is done in true kind of Nick Hornby fashion. It's simply about somebody's life and what they go through in the space of about 2 years, and the experience that I think everyone has when they leave home, which is sort of a sense of loss, you know, and a sort of grief that starts to kick in when, no matter how, I mean, in her case, it was a decision that was made for her. She didn't choose to move away from home, but in that time and so many kind of decades before that, it was the done thing. It still is really to leave Ireland and get work, you know. That's what my mum and dad did, and that's what I do, you know. And so Eilish is sent over there, and she kind of has to create this life for herself, and we really start to see her become a woman, become her own person, and she falls in love and she gets married, and then about a year later, after she's kind of created this life for herself, there's a family tragedy back in Ireland, and so she goes back home.
And Ireland comes calling.
And Ireland comes calling, and she's suddenly faced with the dilemma of, you know, where she belongs, I suppose. Is it this place that has such deep roots for her that she will never really get anywhere else, or does she go back to the city that has kind of made her the person she is now, you know?
Right. So you were talking about how she really sets out on her own. What's she say, 18?
No, she's about 22.
She's 22, but she's still very young.
Yeah.
And in a world of all adults, which sort of reminded me of what it must have been like for you on film sets when you were young. I mean, clearly you probably had your parents around, but you were independent from a very young age. Did you draw any parallels there?
Not with work, funnily enough, because I did have my mum with me wherever I went. I mean, my mum chaperoned me up until I was 18. And I was very lucky that I think because of her and because of the people that I worked with, I never lost touch with kind of childhood or anything, you know. I always wanted to be professional, and I think Atonement really kind of gave me that because it was such a serious subject matter and stuff. But I was a kid, you know, I was always very much a kid on set. I think it was really when I moved away from home myself, and I had one of my first real kind of personal life experiences that was separate from work. I felt like it was important for me to not only move away from my parents' home, but to move to a different country. I needed to move to a different place, to be a 19-year-old and be anonymous and be silly and, you know, do all that I guess having that sort of freedom. And also I was very wary of becoming a kid who had grown up in this type of industry where so often everything's kind of done for you. Do you know what I mean? If you want your laundry cleaned, someone else will do it for you, whether it's your mum or someone else. Your food is made for you every day when you go into work for lunch. You're picked up at a time that's given to you by someone else, and so you don't really have to think about any of those aspects of, like, you know, grown-up life. And I was very worried that I would grow up in this world and kind of lose touch of what a reality was for, like, normal 20-something-year-olds. So I felt it was really important do all that. Even though I do hate bills and I hate changing my bed covers and I hate washing up clothes.
And you're really a true 20-something because that's what everyone hates.
Everyone hates that, but you know, everyone needs to go through that as well. I still hate it, but you know, that's a normal step for every young person to take. And I think to bypass that in any way, or to feel sort of, to have like a more privileged introduction into that next step in your life, I think it would have been wrong. So it was really that where I drew the parallels, you know, and it was actually, I had gone through that after I had signed up to the film. So I met up with John, really wanted to do the movie, and then it was another year before they got the money together, you know, to make it. And in that time I had moved away. So I was really homesick when we made the film. And to go back home in the middle of that to start this shoot, that was very, very important to me. And I knew it was a huge responsibility to not only come back to Ireland, but to go back to a town that I didn't even live in anymore, but was so close to where I grew up as a kid. And was still very much a place I was craving for. And that was really surreal, you know.
It must be frustrating. I mean, you're describing this beautiful picturesque place where you grew up, that to follow your dreams and pursue what you want, you kind of have to travel elsewhere.
Yeah, you do. You can't, not, you know, that kind of thing doesn't happen in a small town like that, you know. And I think it's the same in America. I think a lot of people have to do that in the States as well. And it never really felt like I have to travel to audition, or, I mean, a lot of the times I actually just sent off tapes in the earlier days, you know. And one thing that I always felt was really important was to like show people where I lived in these tapes. So we would always show, so you know, my dad would help me with my audition tapes, and we would always show whoever these producers were or directors.
The river in the background?
Yeah, where I lived, and my dog Sassy, and just because I think it's important, you know, you'll know if you do this kind of stuff, that with a lot of auditions it becomes like a conveyor belt, and it's one person after another, and you know, you're in a white room, and people are nervous when they're put in that environment, and you're kind of like, Jesus, okay, I better just focus on what I'm doing here. And you don't really get a chance to relax. So I was really lucky that I got to do these tapes in an environment that I was comfortable in, send them off, and then because of my mom's attitude towards it, she kind of taught me to just like forget about it then, you know, just do it and then it's gone and it's out of your hands. So
what you're saying is you probably got a lot of early roles because of how cute your dog was.
Basically, yeah, it was because of Sassy, and Sassy's not here anymore, so I don't know what's going to happen now. I'm probably never going to work again.
You better get over to the pound and find a new
I
dog.
know, get another Sassy.
Okay, so we put, we have some Twitter questions from your fans who sent some in. Okay, this is from Becca's Film Blog. She asks, or she says, your performance in Brooklyn is fantastic. Do you relate to Eilish a lot, and what was your favorite part of playing her?
I do, yeah. I mean, just kind of for what I've said, that when you're homesick and you are given a piece of material like that just captures that feeling so brilliantly in the way that Nick did, it really hits you, you know. So, I mean, I can't kind of even explain how many moments took place during the shoot that sometimes I had to leave set because I was very overwhelmed by how similar it was for me to something I had gone through, you know.
Was the director aware of that?
Yes, yeah, for the most part he was, you know. And John was great because he really took care of me, you know. Wasn't precious, like would never kind of pussyfoot around anyone just to protect their feelings. You know, you had to do your job, and if he didn't feel like it was right, then he wouldn't move on. And I loved that. And even though it kind of took you a second to get your mindset into that when it feels like you're coming in from such an emotional place, it was great because it meant that you basically, well, we all did, we didn't have enough time not to, but you had to just knuckle down and work, you know. Like I remember one morning, we were so tired during the shoot, and we had gotten to Montreal, and that was our second location. So at this stage we had worked for about a month, and in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of time. Usually you just, you know, you're getting into your rhythm by that stage. But we were so tired because we had to just pack so much in to every single shooting day. And I remember I got up, I can't remember, I think we were doing the scene the next day where Emery and I go into City Hall and we get married and all that sort of stuff. And I remember I just woke up and I looked around and I was like, right, okay, I have to get ready. was in my pajamas. I took off my pajamas and I'm getting into the shower and stuff, and I'm standing in the shower and I'm just about to turn the shower on, and I look out the window and I realise that it's pitch black outside. And I got out of the shower and I looked at the time on my phone and it was like 3 a.m. or something.
Oh my gosh.
And we were all so kind of delirious that I was like, I have to get to work, I have to go to work now, what am I doing, what am I doing? And it got to that stage where you're kind of just on autopilot, you know?
And feel very, I'm sure, without a place if you can't even get the time right.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, so that would be the main parallel, just that I had moved away from home and could really tap into that, you know?
Yeah. Okay, our last one comes from Saoirse Ronan, Brazil.
It's like, did I tweet in my own question?
No, they have a whole fan page.
The Brazilian me.
What was the first thing you thought or said when you won the role in Brooklyn?
That's a good question.
Good job, Saoirse Ronan,
Brazilian
Brazil.
me.
Yeah.
You're probably not as tanned as I am. That's impossible. What was the first thing I thought? Probably, oh Jesus Christ, I have a lot to prove, I would say. That was kind of my thinking throughout the whole film. I just felt like with this, it was very important to get it right for a lot of people, you know. And I had never felt that pressure before. I'd never allowed myself, no matter, even if there had been like buzz surrounding a film that I had been in that we were making, or there was a big fan base before we made the film, whatever it is, it never really affected me that much. But with this, it was like, we had to get this right for Ireland. This was for Ireland, this was for my mum and dad, this was for myself, like everyone who had gone through this, because it was such a personal thing for me. And I know if I was an audience member who had just left home and I went to see Brooklyn and it didn't quite capture that experience, you know, I wanted people to feel like we understood and we were all in the same boat. And I think that's why it affected me so much as well, was, you know, the scene near the end where she's on a boat going somewhere. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
And no, I don't want to give it away, but she has this amazing speech sort of where she says to another girl who's, you know, about to go on the same journey as her, that you'll feel so homesick you'll want to die, and there's nothing you can do about it apart from endure it, but you will. And that was Nick's original writing. It didn't come from the book. And even still, when I say that out loud, I think I'm not alone. Do you know what I mean? Someone else has gone through this too, and it helps you, you know. So we wanted the film to give that to people, I think.
You pulled it off, girl. Yeah, and this weekend, Golden Globes.
I know.
You ready?
Well, I've never been because, you know.
Oh, because it was canceled.
The strikes.
I'm guessing you have the
So writers,
look
don't go on strike this weekend because I really want to go to the
in the
Globes.
next 3 days.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to wear, yes?
I know roughly what I'm going to wear. I don't know what colour, though.
Oh, so you have multiple
Does that
dresses
sound
in the
really
same
privileged?
color?
I don't know what colour I'm going to wear. I'm still figuring it out.
Oh my God, your Valley Girl's real good.
Thanks. Well,
My Irish is not
I've
that
been
good.
around them enough. Can you do an Irish accent?
Oh, I can't. No,
Oh, no.
it's not good.
No. We're not there yet.
No.
We'll get there.
The Saoirse Ronan School of
Not live.
Acting.
Let's not do it live, actually. I put you on the spot there.
So you're going to pick out the color of your dress.
I have to pick out the colour of my dress, yeah.
And the morning of, how are you going to get zen? You're just going to like pump some music?
Probably put a bit of music on, yeah. Well, we just got, she's not listening to me, but my makeup artist told me to buy, she's not listening, Justin Bieber's new album.
Oh my gosh.
Still not listening.
Why?
Remember you forced me to get Justin Bieber's album the other day?
I did, that's true.
The deluxe version. So we'll probably listen to that.
Whoa.
Since we're all believers now.
Big weekend ahead.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, good luck this weekend. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching. Come back to latimes.com for more chats with our favorite actors and actresses.